All right. Aladdin films analysis and critical review. This is comparing the two versions, the animated and the live action. All right. So part one, the comparison of the two films. So there's actually a lot more similarities and differences to these movies. Now, people often mention the changes, but in reality, the story and the music and all the characters are almost identical to the original. Most of the characters, I would say. The music in both versions is great. It's one of the best Disney's ever produced. And yeah, just a lot of like the story, the setting, obviously, everything is just very similar through both versions, which is what a remake should be. At the end of the day, should keep that. Now, the difference is, they changed some smaller story moments to fit the longer time that the live action had. Live action had 2 hours, so with the 2 hour time frame, they had to fill more time they created a new character, the handmaid. She's like a love interest to Will Smith, the genie, and it's different, but yeah, it adds just more time to the movie. I say it doesn't really add any value. However, what really adds more value is Jasmine's new song, "Speechless." Now, like the character development of Jasmine throughout the live action was done way better in the live action. Partially because they had more time, but just they focused on her almost as much as Aladdin in the live action. When in the animated, it was all about Aladdin. So I really liked that. They gave Jasmine more character. They made her stand up to herself, and yeah, it was a pretty good change. And then story changes, various characters' personalities and their motivations. The big one being Jafar. Other than that, most stays pretty consistent to the two versions. Obviously, different actors, but that's a given with a movie remake. Part two, character change. Now, Jafar was, in my opinion, like the worst change of the movie. They changed him more than slightly, and it was really bad. I did not like that. In the animated, for being a kids movie, it was 90 minutes long. He was extremely evil, and he was just that classic villain, that classic Disney villain, that evil monologues and laughs and does all these evil plots and schemes to get whatever they want. In the live action, he's not quite that. At one point, he feels like an inconvenience. With all the extra time that the live action added, like they didn't give Jafar any new scenes from what I recall. And they even cut out his monologues, which was the best part of his character. And the worst change is at the end, the climactic conclusion being the fight scene with Jafar and Aladdin. The original Jasmine was like trapped in an hourglass, and there was like sword fighting. And then Jafar, being the sorcerer, he turned into a giant snake. And then in the remake, he makes a sandstorm and then makes Iago big, and that's it. So it kind of is just like a minor obstacle instead of being like the main antagonist of the story, which I don't really like. And it's not a good change. And then the plot structure. So the animated plot structure is probably the most unique. Um, the exposition is probably the longest part of the movie, which is, it's warranted because originally Aladdin was a book, and with a book they have a lot more time to set up the setting and the characters and everything. And the animated movie, for being as short as it is, does a great job setting up everything, the characters and the setting, and super memorable, along with all the other Disney movies from that time. And everything else feels rushed in comparison, just because they don't have much time. It's a kids movie, and you're going to lose attention fast unless you add an action scene later. Then Aladdin meets Jasmine once, the classic Disney love story, but a little unrealistic, but it's what you expect from Disney. And then at the end, second to third act just go by really quick. Nothing compared to the exposition and just the setup. With time restraints and everything. But not even the live action really changes that for the better. They just add filler scenes like the party and the handmade stuff, and just useless stuff. I don't really feel like it adds that much. But that's all opinion. And then part 4, Broadway influence. Now, in terms of Broadway influence and just bringing Broadway to the big screen, I feel like the live action presents Broadway in a better light. It includes more elements like dancing, and just every score is memorable in that movie. In the animated, they kind of feel, not forced, but like just, they have to be there in a Disney movie. So it's still a musical. Just it feels less Broadway than the live action because it's animated. There's not dancing. It's just some tunes. While in the live action, they're dancing, they're singing. It feels a lot more like a Broadway performance. They have the costumes, the elaborate costumes. And then even at the end, they have the encore, which is a staple in Broadway. When the entire cast gets on stage and takes a bow as their actual self. The animated version, and then in the day, both are musical like enough to give that musical feel and bring that experience anywhere. You don't have to be in Broadway in New York. You can be sitting at your home on Disney Plus watching it, and it still gives that feeling. At least some of that feeling. So that's it. In terms of which version I like better, I'm not a big fan of either. I like them. They're enjoyable. Just I was never a big fan of the animated Aladdin. I definitely don't have any childhood nostalgia from it, unlike other movies like Lion King or Mulan or anything like that. So with the live action, I was really open to it, to the changes and everything compared to the original and the other Disney remakes. So, and this is the most well done remake. I feel like. At the same time, it still feels kind of pointless. So, that's Disney. So,